Okay, the time is 11 and it's time to start this webinar. Hi to everyone and welcome to this webinar from us at Lime Technologies. My name is Adam and I'm the lead generation manager here at Lime. And basically what it means is that I'm responsible for driving a bigger pipeline for our sales reps, basically. And with me, I have my colleague, who can introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristin and I'm a part of the sales team in Stockholm. So I work as an account manager and my responsibility is basically to create new customers.
Perfect. Today we are actually not going to talk much about our products. Instead, we kind of want to give you some insights into our typical customer journey, our marketing funnel, and kind of how we tie marketing and sales together at Lime, and hopefully give you some inspiration that you can take to your own organization. And we have around 500 that have signed up for this webinar, which is super fun. We are very excited about that, of course. You will be able to ask questions in the chat as we move along, and we will try to answer as much of them as possible in the end of this webinar. Yeah, I think that's all. Let's get started with the actual topic, from lead to deal. How does it work at Lime? So I'm going to start out here by talking a little bit about marketing, of course, which is my favorite subject. You have all probably seen something like this before, a typical customer journey in today's digital world, where we have these different stages that a potential customer runs through. They become aware of a problem, they research their problem, they compare different vendors, and then finally they purchase something. This is, of course, a very simplified picture, but I think it's relevant to think about as we start. What I think is more interesting is the fact that around 60% or so of these potential buyers reaches out to us first after the research phase. So what this means is that we, as vendors or as suppliers of some product, we need to be able to answer their kind of initial questions without talking to them face to face, which is why marketing, of course, is growing a lot in all different organizations, of course. But this is very important for us. And what we have come up with is that we need to really stand out to be relevant in this space. And we at Lime, if you don't know, many of you probably maybe are customers of ours or have heard about us, but we are one of the leading CRM providers in the Nordics. But we compete against some of these biggest companies in the world. So we compete against Salesforce, against Microsoft, and against HubSpot. And we will never be able to beat them in terms of, visibility or ad spend. But we can find other creative ways and be more agile than they are to stand out. And for us, this has a lot to do with building up a relationship with our potential buyers in their local market and in their local language, to be that close partner that these global companies could never be. And Kristin will talk a bit about this later, how we actually try to build this potential relationship up. But before that, I wanted to dig into a little bit our own marketing process and marketing funnel, and kind of what happens before our sales reps take over. And hopefully you get maybe you have a similar process yourself, maybe you have an even more developed process, but perhaps you get some inspiration at least. So if we look at a typical marketing funnel in B2B, you have probably seen something like this before. We have a bunch of these different channels where potential customers arrive from. It can be from Google, it can be from Facebook, LinkedIn, webinars, and so on. And when a company have shown an interest in our product or our content, we call them a lead usually. So that's just a company that have shown interest. If they also fulfill all the kind of prerequisites that we have set for us it can be, for example, that they are in our focus industries, they've asked for a personal demo, etc. Then we call them a marketing qualified lead. And that is where we at marketing have qualified them. And this is also where sales take over and start to build up that personal relationship I've talked about before. And then if sales qualifies this further and they think it's a good fit both for us and for the potential customer, it is called a sales qualified lead. And it is kind of here the actual opportunity is created. And then, of course, when a customer buys, it's called a deal. So this funnel is, I think, is a pretty simplistic picture, of course. And many in marketing now talk about, oh, this kind of MQL measurements are dead and the marketing funnel is not working. But I think it's working quite well as long as we don't dwell on it too much. And this is the only measurement we have. I think marketing qualified leads are a great measurement of just saying that we are doing something right. And then sales qualified leads are probably a better measurement of saying, okay, sales think we are doing something right. But we have developed our marketing funnel a little bit from this. So I wouldn't say that we are 100% there yet, but I wanted to show you kind of what we are working towards and what we think is a better view of the marketing funnel. So instead of this, let me see, we have what we call a high intent funnel. So this is where all the leads end up that have shown what we have defined as high intent. It could be, for example, they have asked for a personal demo, they have visited our pricing page for a long time, and so on. And the goal in this high intent funnel is always to get our account managers talking to them and building that personal relationship up. And if we look into our actual numbers for, I think 2021, I put this on, we have 70% of the leads that we get in from these different channels, they qualify further on. So 70% of these leads end up into the MQL bucket. So they have these prerequisites that we search for. So this tells us that we seem to acquire companies that are of the relevance to us. And from these, we have 76% that goes further on, that turns into SQLs. And this tells us even more, okay, they are really right for us, these companies. They are created opportunities that our sales people can work with. That's great. And then 20% of these sales qualified leads turn into actual deals. And this can probably look very different based on the product you sell, of course. We have a pretty, I want to say simple, but a complex product, but with a longer sales cycle. So it can range from everything from 6 months to a few months to a couple of years. And for a low touch product where you can get started right away, you might see around 50% of your SQLs actually turning into deals. So this is our high intent funnel. This is kind of our main funnel, which is most important. But then we have what we call also the low intent funnel. And here are all the leads that we believe are not ready to be in a process with us right now. And usually these are leads coming from, content downloads, webinars, events, all these things that we do. And instead of having a direct sales contact here, we try to nurture these through different flows and to different send outs. And the goal here is not to get a salesperson talking to them. The goal here is to get them to become high intent. So just to mention some product in this webinar, we of course use our own solutions, Lime Newsletter and Lime Marketing, for these send outs and flows. And you can of course contact us if you want to know more about this. I won't go into this now. But so these low intent leads that come in that are not ready now, we nurture them with the goal of becoming high intent leads, so that we have defined that they, for example, ask for a demo. And when they have done that, they end up in the high intent funnel instead. So this is the kind of funnel we are working towards. we are also trying to split this funnel view based on maybe the actual channel that you have been acquired from. So we might look at paid search on Google. Okay, how many high intent leads are it bringing in? How many are low intent versus other channels, for example. And I think this is a pretty good way of looking at it. It gives us a lot of insights to improve. And what this also has shown us now is that at Lime, we actually contribute to over 50% of our new revenue from marketing activities. And this doesn't mean that we at marketing are solely responsible for this revenue, but it means that we touch upon this revenue at least, this 50%. And I think this is, for us at least, a great number and something we are trying to uphold as we move along. And we also believe that 100% of our potential customers visit our web pages at some point to look for information, look at cases, and so on. And this is the reasons why we believe that our marketing activities and web pages are so important for our future growth. When the digital customer journey develops even more. So I wanted to dig into a bit more what we believe have made us somewhat successful in terms of marketing over the years and maybe more recently, and give you a few tips and tricks that you can try out yourself. So what can you actually do to acquire more customers through marketing activities and through basic marketing? And this is, of course, a big topic. You can discuss everything from branding to messaging to digital ads and so on. But I want to talk about a few things that have worked well for us. And first, I want to talk about creating a high converting web page. And I don't want to talk about creating a good looking and UX experienced web page. I want to talk about creating a web page that will actually perform in terms of conversion. I'm going to dig into that a bit. And I found some numbers on this. I have noticed also that the text here is pretty weird, but at least you can see the B2B, which is important for us. And if we look across industries, and especially in B2B, we have around 3.7% average conversion rate. This means that almost 4 visitors out of 100 should do something active on our page. So if you're a B2B company and you are below this, you probably have something to work on, and we did for sure. We released a new web page about a year ago, and it didn't perform at all as how we wanted it to. But we have done a lot of work on it and a lot of changes that have improved it massively. And it is a few of these changes I want to talk about now. And the first one that I feel is maybe the most underrated when you create a new web page is page speed. Around 47% of your buyers, they expect a page to load in kind of 2 seconds or less, and 40% will abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load. When we released our new page, this is a tool called Page Speed Insights by Google, and this is completely free. You can test your own page, which I really recommend you to do. When we released our new page, we had around 60, the score here, 60 out of 100, and now we are, as you can see, around 98. We have 2 web developers in our team solely working on our web pages, so we have much to thank them for, of course. But some of the things that we have done to achieve this are user browser caching. So we make sure that a visitor don't have to load our page the second time they visit us. Lazy loading, that we only load kind of the visible elements in the viewport. And that only if you scroll, we load the rest of the elements. And of course, image compression. We use a lot of images and videos, but we automatically compress them so they take less space and the page is faster. So I won't go into more detail on this, but I think it's super important, and you can probably talk to your developers or web developers figure this out. But test your page at least. I really recommend doing that. And the next thing, probably maybe more of a minor thing for many of you, is form pages. So all companies usually have some kind of form pages where this is kind of the last exit for a visitor to submit their information. And we have done a lot of work here to make sure, that they are as high converting as possible. So we have made sure here, as you can see, that the entire form is visible right when you visit without scrolling. You get some information, you get a picture to get a sense of what's going on. And we had also decided to not include a nav bar, for example, because we don't want to disturb the visitor with too many choices. And then we have also added, some review site logos to get this social proof and to make sure that people understand who we are and that we are as good as we think we are. And these small changes have massively increased our conversion rate, as I talked about before. These are small things, but very important have they been for us. And the next thing I want to talk about, now we have a converting web page. The next thing I think is about finding the right channel for your audience or for the people that you want to sell to. And this is also a big topic. But I think first and foremost, you need to figure out your audience. And this is something we have worked a lot with. So figure out your audience, figure out your ICPs, your ideal customers. And what I think is an easy thing to do if you already have customers is to interview your best customers or potential customers in the right segment and just ask them, okay, where do you hang out online or offline? What content are you usually drawn to? What are your interests? I think this is something that is often overlooked, especially in marketing. You overlook actually talking to customers and talking to potential customers, asking them where we can find them. If you have a competitor where you have a similar audience, you can also research them through different competitor analysis tools, where you can also find out different traffic ways that they get their traffic from. And this is what I believe is a baseline before actually choosing which channels to distribute your content in. And the next thing I want to talk about is to figure out what your end goal is. So these are just examples, but it might be the case that you want to focus on building up your brand. Yeah, then you probably want to work specifically with things like social media, SEO, PR. Is it instead about kind of positioning yourself as an expert? You might work with blogging, content marketing, native, and so on. And if it's only about getting more leads into the sales funnel, you can probably focus on paid search, paid social, and SEO. But I think probably you want to do a bit of everything here and find your unique combo in terms of your audience. But I think always you should try to have a goal, an end goal. What are you trying to achieve? And then set your channel strategy. So we have created a converting web page. We have hopefully found the right channels for your audience. And the next thing here is to create content that people will love, or content that people at least will engage with is very important. And here, a regular content marketing funnel usually looks something like this. We have a top of the funnel where we have content, like blog posts, SEO, social media. Here we do everything to get people into our funnel, to get people, to get leads into our sales process. Then we have what we call the middle of the funnel. The purpose here is more into, okay, they are in a process with us. How can we help sales, for example, to push the potential buyer further on? And usually this is through ebooks, guides, cases, webinars, and so on. And then finally, we have a bottom of the funnel. And this is where we kind of want to put them or tip them over the edge and make them actually buy our product or service. And usually this can be through comparisons with other vendors, feature specs, customer stories, and so on. So I believe that this content marketing funnel has a lot to do with how we can help sales close more deals. And in this framework, I think every piece of content that we at the marketing department create is an opportunity to either bring in new leads or bring leads closer to sales. And there is not really a point of creating 100 blog posts if we are not really achieving that goal. So we need to talk to our audience depending on where in the funnel they are. And this is super hard sometimes, but I think as a general idea, I think it's a great thing to do, to map out all your content that you have in these types of funnels and look at where are we lacking and where are we heavy. So if you have a problem with you need more leads, yeah, then you probably have to work with top of the funnel and create a lot of content regarding that. Yeah, so this was very quick and short about our marketing funnel, about our marketing process, and some of the things we have done to achieve this. But I don't believe that our marketing is what really makes us stand out from our global competitors. All of them are also doing great marketing. But what I really think makes us stand out at Lime is the way we create these personal relationships, as I've talked about. And what makes us stand out, I think, really is our sales reps. And I'm going to hand over to Kristin and have her talk a bit about our sales process and how they work.
Thank you, Adam. Well, next up, as Adam said, is our sales process. But what we can see at our presentation here is that our customer journey consists of not only 2 steps, but actually 4 steps. So Adam covered the first one, marketing, now, and now I'm going to talk a bit about our sales process. And our sales process is quite detailed, so I will not have time to go through everything today, but I will try to talk a bit about the most important part. And as Adam said, we do try to put a personal touch on everything and really build relationships with our prospects. So our sales process contains of 5 steps, which are prospecting, qualification, push, closing, and won. And of course, prospecting is the first step in our sales process. And today we have 2 different ways of creating deals in prospecting. The first one is own prospecting, and then the second one is MQLs, which are the ones I'm going to focus on today. So then you receive MQL from marketing, then what happens next? Well, for me, the most important thing, the next slide, Adam, please, is that you actually call your lead. MQLs for marketing are really, really valuable. We do not want to waste the time and energy that marketing put down on creating these. So the first thing you do is that you call your lead, and we do have an internal process that says that if you can't call a lead within the first 2 hours after you receive it, then someone else should take it instead. And this is because no matter how long the first call is, the first point of contact is the most important one. This is where we put the bar for the rest of the sales process. And when we call an MQL, we usually have a bit of information about the company. We usually know which industry they belong to, how many employees they have, and where they're located geographically. But we always treat the lead the same way as we do with own prospecting. And this is where we enter the qualification phase. And I bet you guys can get what we do, but we qualify our lead. And this is where we build on the information that marketing gave us. And key questions that we would like to have answered are: first, what are their needs? What do the prospect, what kind of problems do they have? How can we solve it? Is it about having a CRM system to handle their sales process? Do they have any marketing needs? Or is it ticket handling? It could really, really be a lot of different types of needs, and these are really important that we manage to scope down. Building on that, we can identify which products they're interested in, and especially which type of add-ons can we show in our demo, and really show the prospect that we can solve their problems and help them reach their long-term goals. And later on, marketing will use this information to do different campaigns and newsletters. And when qualifying a prospect, it's actually absolutely fundamental within sales to do so, and it actually determines whether or not I, as a sales rep, should be investing my time in that specific prospect. And if I don't know anything about the prospect, I will not be able to plan my sales activities, and if I lose a deal, the reason why is often due to insufficient qualifying. And the aim of the qualification phase is, of course, to provide me with the tools that I need to, first of all, prioritize my time, and second of all, close the deal. Then the last point here on my slide is to book a meeting. As a sales rep, I always want to have a next step booked in with the prospect. Doesn't need to be a full-on demonstration of Lime CRM. It can just as well be a qualification meeting if I don't feel like I have enough information about the prospect, but always have a next step booked in. And then if we go to the next slide, I will not go into details, unfortunately, about what we do during our meetings. We don't have time for that today, but after the meeting, my goal is that all participants should perceive Lime as being both credible and reliable. And how do I know this? Well, first of all, you can get a sense during the meeting, but in addition, I also call every participant a couple of days or a week after the meeting. And this is not only to have additional contact points with the prospect, but this is also a great opportunity to identify if I missed something during the meeting. Did someone feel that I didn't focus enough on their issues, or did we have some kind of miscommunication? Furthermore, it is very important that I don't play all of my cards at the same time. Fun story about this is that I did exactly that mistake during my very first sales process. And what happened was that during the first 2 weeks, I had qualified the prospect, presented a demo, had a quotation meeting, and asked for the order. The only problem was that the prospect was not ready at all. And the result was that I actually lost the deal. So I didn't really help myself there. And that's why the objective, or what I need to do, is that I need to match the pace of my prospect. And my goal is that they should perceive me as proactive instead of an impatient sales rep, because no one likes an impatient sales rep. In addition, the objective is to have a shared vision with the customer and to be able to present that vision to the prospect. I've experienced that a prospect wants to buy from people who understand their business, who see their world through their eyes, who share their vision, and who empower them to see that they really have control over their own problems. And in order to achieve this, I must have listened to the prospect. I must question the prospect and actually question their way of working today. And together with the prospect, I need to reach a conclusion in how should we improve this and what's their long-term goal. And this is where we enter the push phase. And there are several actions I can take while waiting, or what I would like to call guiding my prospect further down the sales process. And the first is that we can actually summarize the information for my prospect. And I usually do this. If we look on the left side of my presentation, we can see a real life example where I've summarized my presentation from a previous meeting, and I send it out to the customer using Lime newsletter. And this is actually a great way of including our marketing tools in our sales process, and especially if the prospect is interested in our add-on live newsletter, then they get a real life touch and feel of our product. In addition, I can book a reference call or present a reference case for the customer, and I can book a quotation meeting. Again, I want as many contact points as possible. I do not want them to forget me. I want us to build a good relationship. And then I would never just send out a quotation. I will always book up a meeting to go through the quotation with the prospect. And on our next slide, I put in a real life example of how we can use our marketing material from our web page in our sales process. Here we have 2 reference cases that marketing put together, and these are available on our web page, but also for me as a sales rep to send over when I summarize the material or present it for a prospect. And then next up, we have our quotation meeting. And during our quotation meeting, it's quite a lot of things we need to think about, but also there are different aspects that I would like to identify to be able to move on to the closing phase later. And the first question I would like to ask myself is, did anything new come up during the meeting? Well, if yes, then this is an opportunity to identify if I've missed something during the qualification phase. Do we have the same scope in our minds what the system should do? In addition, did they accept the price? This is quite easy to get a feeling of what they think of the price, especially what did their facial expression look like when you presented the price? And have you agreed on the scope, and do you share the same vision? Then I can be quite direct. So I think it's best to just ask the customer if they're ready to order. I feel like we should have that kind of relationship at this point. And if they say no, well, then I ask why. And then they will most likely tell me why, and I have identified a problem right away. And then I can ask them how I can help to get them over the finish line. This is again so they find me proactive instead of impatient. And then if they say yes, if they're ready for the order, then we can put it into the closing phase of the sales process. And if they say yes, presumably I would have already done a good job during the earlier phases of the sales process. And then, of course, I can close the deal with Lime eSign. Next up, we can ask ourselves, what should we do after we close the deal? Well, we at Lime, we report back to marketing. And key questions that we would like to have a look at are, for example, did we close the deal? Why did we close it? How long did it take? Which products did they buy? And we will use this information again later to do specific newsletter campaigns. We can use it to look up references, and we keep statistics. And then we come into quite important questions. If we lost the deal, why? And was it because of the product, or did I miss something important during the sales process? And the answers to these questions are really important, and marketing will use this information to improve further MQLs, and the sales reps will use the information to improve their actions during the next sales process, so that when the next MQL comes in, we will know how to close that deal. So a short summary of our sales process. I do think we have time for a couple of questions. Let's see. We do have one here for Adam. And the question is, can MQL be generated by sales as well?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, of course I can. Usually what we call an MQL is something, for us at least, that is something that have been touched by marketing at some point. But usually the sales reps are maybe more involved than we are during webinars, during events, and so on. We have a live chat, for example, that usually ends up with our sales reps. So yeah, I would definitely say so. And I would also say that when we look at how marketing contribute, we look at, attribution, which is a hard question to say that, okay, this channel made this kind of revenue. So I think we need to look at it, or we at least need to look at the whole picture. Okay, how much are marketing and sales bringing in together? I think it's very important to not look only at how much MQLs did marketing bring in, for example. Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. And if you guys have any questions now, just post it in the chat and we will go through everything that we have time for. And if we don't have time for every question, we will get back to you after the webinar as well. We do have a question here about how, let's see, how long our sales process is at Lime. And this is a really, really good question, because this can be everything from 1 week to, I don't know, our sales manager, Vishal, had a customer that spent 6 years designing. I think he even had time to quit Lime and then come back and start working at Lime again before the customer actually signed. So it really depends on, first of all, what kind of product they're interested in and what their buying process looks like. Are they ready to buy, or is everything too new for the prospect? But what I can say, in average, for our biggest product, Lime CRM, between 2 months to 6 months. Let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, we have a question about how we work with test accounts. And if it's important to close more deals.
Yeah, I would definitely say that test account is one of our biggest lead sources. Apart from asking for like a personal demo. But I think one of the things that we are working most on as we move along now is to kind of improve our test accounts a lot, to not make it self-service, but at least to make people be able to express, as I talked about earlier, their intent within the product. Right now we have that you can test our products, both our products, Lime CRM and Lime Go, for example, for 72 hours. And yeah, they are very important and a big lead generating channel for us, of course.
And then we have another question about what kind of mechanism we use to feedback information to marketing regarding win-loss. And what we use here is our own Lime CRM. We do put in quite a lot of information on the deal card in our own Lime regarding what I talked about earlier, product, what kind of competitors we have, but also why we lost and why we won. And I don't know, Adam, how do you guys go through this afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. We have, as you said, our own CRM, of course. But then we also have our own BI tool. So we visualize all of these different reasons. Usually we bundle the reasons together in certain categories. Did we lose the deal because we lost it to a competitor? We lost it due to perhaps an unqualified MQL or so on. And then we try to group them together and really look at the reasons. And if someone is really sticking out, we dig into further. Okay, what was it really that made this happen? Because sales, as Kristin said, will pin down the information regarding that deal, which is super important for us because we can look at, okay, we lost to a customer, but what is the real reason we lost? Is it due to our product? They think our product is not as good as theirs, or is it something else? I think that's very important. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. Let's see here. We do have a question about in case we send a quote and it takes time for the customer to answer, or even the customer does not answer, how long do we wait until we set the quotation to cancelled or abandoned, and will then go out from the sales funnel? So I guess we do have quite a structured sales process outlined, but as everything else, it will depend a bit on the sales rep. But what I do is that I will never create a quote or present a quote unless I've booked in a quotation meeting with the customer, which means that I will not give them that unless they give me something back. And then let's see if after a quotation meeting, of course, I will send over the quotation so they have time to go through it, but then I will try to always book a next step after that meeting as well. So then we can have a status meeting 2 weeks later to just talk about the quotation again. If they then ghost me, I will take different actions to try and reach them. I will call, I will email. But I guess if time goes by and I hear nothing back, I will put it in lost actually. Or if they come back to me and say, okay, thank you, but we're not ready right now, I will move it from either the closing phase back to push, or if it's the reason why they need to look over their needs and so on, I will actually move it back to qualification and then go through the sales process again, matching the customer's or prospect's pace. I hope that answered the question. I think that's all we have time for today, Adam.
Yeah. And I saw a few questions here also that if we will send out the recording, if you want to look at it again, and of course we will. We will send out it to everyone who attended this webinar so you can look at it again. And yeah, we have not been able to answer all of the questions, but if you want an answer to your questions, you can, of course, just contact us at Lime. Yeah, just go to our webpage and we will make sure you get to the right person if it's us.
Perfect. I would like to thank everyone for listening today, and I hope that you get something out of our webinar today. And of course, if you have any questions, you can call our support and ask for Kristin or Adam, and you will be connected directly.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.